Did you ever cry at a Michael Bay movie and spend the next 10 minutes pretending you didn't? Armageddon landed in theaters in July 1998 and turned oil drilling into the most heroic profession on the planet. Part disaster movie, part recruitment poster for roughnecks, part the greatest music video Aerosmith ever made. Bruce Willis led as Harry Stamper, the world's best deep-core driller, and a man whose idea of conflict resolution is a golf cart, a golf club, and a very bad attitude. Ben Affleck was AJ, the cocky kid in love with the boss's daughter, who had just won an Academy Award for writing, and now had Michael Bay telling him to get new teeth. Liv Tyler was Grace, doing the most emotional heavy lifting of anyone in the film while lying down for most of it. Billy Bob Thornton kept everyone anchored as Dan Truman, the NASA chief who somehow convinced the President of the United States that sending oil drillers to space was the move. And Steve Buscemi, asked years later why he did the film, answered with 4 words: "I wanted a bigger house." Directed by Michael Bay and produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, Armageddon cost $140 million and earned $553.7 million worldwide. Roger Ebert gave it 1 star. The Criterion Collection gave it a spine number. Today we're going back to 1998 for 15 wild facts you didn't know. The hockey film that dragged Bruce Willis here against his will, the bodyguard shift that ended at an Oscar nomination, and the single box office record this film holds that nothing has touched in 27 years. Before we dive in, hit like and subscribe for more deep dives into the movies that shaped us. Now, let's get into it, starting with number 15. Number 15. Armageddon beat the movie. It may have borrowed from. The movie Armageddon might have been born from a lunch that had nothing to do with Armageddon. In 1997, a screenwriter named Bruce Joel Rubin was pitching his film Deep Impact around Hollywood, an asteroid movie for Paramount and DreamWorks, with Steven Spielberg producing. At one meeting at Disney, he talked about the project, the plot, the premise. What makes an extinction-level event dramatically compelling? The Disney executive across from him was taking notes. Shortly after that lunch, Disney greenlit a project called Armageddon, an asteroid movie. Rubin later documented it in the non-fiction book Tales from the Script. A production president at Disney had taken notes on everything the writer said about his script and used it to initiate a counterfilm. 2 asteroid movies, released 8 weeks apart, one from Paramount with Spielberg producing, built over years of careful development, featuring Morgan Freeman and Robert Duvall. The other one, the one that beat it by $200 million at the global box office, may have been born from a lunch Rubin thought was about something else entirely. Deep Impact came out first. It was more scientifically accurate, better reviewed, and better liked by people who wanted to feel something. Armageddon came out second. It had Aerosmith. It had the animal crackers scene. And it won. The film that beat the original by the kind of margin that makes studio executives go quiet in meetings. And the star you're about to hear about didn't even choose to be there. Number 14. Bruce Willis's biggest hits started as a punishment. The film that dragged Willis here had nothing to do with asteroids or NASA. It was a $28 million romantic comedy about a retired hockey player, filmed in Wilmington, Delaware, with an Oscar-winning director in Lee Grant and a 6-time Oscar-nominated cinematographer in William Fraker. Willis was producing it himself and calling it his award season pivot, the move where the action star proves he can do something quieter. 20 days into shooting, Willis fired Grant, Fraker, the producer, and the costume designer, all of them. Production shut down completely. Disney and Synergy, who were backing the film, had already burned through $14 to $17 million with nothing usable to show for it. Fraker later told the Los Angeles Times what happened. Lee was doing a great job. Bruce was telling other actors how to act. It was a great script, and Lee's vision was a love story. But Bruce just took over. Disney faced a choice: sue Willis, or find another way to recoup. His agent Arnold Rifkin brokered a deal. Willis would star in 3 Disney films at a dramatically reduced salary. His normal asking price was $20 million per film. For Armageddon, the first in the deal, he accepted $3 million. $3 million for a film that would earn $553.7 million and top the global box office. If you do that math, Willis effectively paid Disney back with interest, then kept going. The second film in the deal was M. Night Shyamalan's The Sixth Sense, which Willis had no choice about either, and which went on to earn $672 million and receive 6 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture. He destroyed a hockey rom-com in Delaware and accidentally made the 2 biggest films of his career. Number 13, 9 writers, 168 scientific errors, 1 blockbuster. 9 people wrote this movie. 5 of them got credit. The credited 5 were Robert Roy Poole, Jonathan Hensley, Tony Gilroy, Shane Salerno, and J.J. Abrams, then a script doctor in his late 20s, years before he ran Star Wars and Star Trek. Scott Rosenberg, working uncredited, contributed Steve Buscemi's sarcasm, and, according to the Too Much Information podcast, the animal crackers scene. Here's the name that doesn't show up in the credits at all. Robert Towne. Robert Towne wrote Chinatown, on the short list of the greatest screenplays in American film history. He was hired to do dialogue Polish on Armageddon. The man who spent years crafting one of cinema's most precisely constructed screenplays sat down and punched up lines for oil drillers arguing about asteroid drilling techniques. Whatever he wrote, you've probably heard it. Nobody knows exactly which lines are his. 9 writers across multiple drafts, including the author of Chinatown, and the final film still has as many as 168 scientific errors. The man who wrote one of the most airtight scripts in Hollywood history helped punch up a movie that NASA would later use as a training exercise in spotting everything wrong with it. More on that later. Number 12. Armageddon gave Ben Affleck his movie star smile. After Ben Affleck's first meeting with Michael Bay and producer Jerry Bruckheimer, Affleck left the room and Bay turned to Bruckheimer. "He's a geek," Bay said. He looked at what the pale kid from Boston had walked in as, fresh off his Oscar, no muscle, no tan, questionable teeth, and decided, we can fix this. Give him a tan, get him to the gym, and fix his teeth. 8 hours a day, 7 days straight. Affleck sat in a dentist's chair while the production spent $20,000 redesigning his smile. Those are the teeth you see in Armageddon, every scene, and then Pearl Harbor, and then decades of subsequent roles. One director's cosmetic decision followed Affleck through his entire leading man career. Here's the kicker. Partway through production, Steve Buscemi mentioned to Bay that he was thinking about getting his own teeth done. Bay told him, without hesitation, that he had $1 million smile and shouldn't change a thing. The Oscar-winning screenwriter got new teeth. The character actor kept his. Bay made that distinction clearly and without apology. Number 11. Ben Affleck's commentary became the real classic. More people stopped Ben Affleck on the street to talk about the Armageddon DVD commentary than about Good Will Hunting, Argo, or Batman. He won an Oscar. He directed films people still quote. None of it comes up as often as a 150-minute audio track, where he spent the whole runtime trying to convince you a movie was bad. In April 2025, Affleck told the Criterion Collection, "People approach me to talk about the commentary on this disc as much as they do movies that I've been in. It is an achievement that I am proud of and didn't intend to be as good as I now think it is." A 150-minute commentary track where he spent the entire runtime roasting the movie, questioning every plot decision, doing a Billy Bob Thornton impression every time Thornton appeared on screen, and delivering the line about asking Bay why it was easier to train oil drillers to become astronauts than astronauts to become oil drillers, and being told to drop the subject immediately. He also told GQ it was probably among the top 5 DVD commentaries ever made. His kids relentlessly mock the film. The artifact Affleck is proudest of contributing to is the audio track where he spent 2.5 hours trying to convince you the movie was bad. Number 10. The first day was the film's hardest scene. What do you think the first scene Michael Bay filmed on Armageddon was? The asteroid hitting New York? The shuttle launch? The oil rig? It was the goodbye. The very first thing filmed on the first day of shooting was the scene where Harry Stamper says goodbye to his daughter from the surface of the asteroid, knowing he won't come back. The emotional climax of the entire film. Liv Tyler through a monitor, Willis in a spacesuit, both of them breaking. Willis was there under contract, having taken $3 million instead of $20 million. He was working for a director he would later say publicly he would never work with again. He had not shot a single other scene. He barely knew his character. To actually cry, he propped up photographs of his real daughters in front of him. And imagine that conversation was real. That's what you're watching in that scene. A man who didn't want to be there, playing a man who couldn't leave, saying goodbye to fictional children using photographs of his actual ones. Bay got the most emotionally authentic moment in the film from someone in the worst possible professional circumstances, on the first morning of a shoot that would run for 5 more months. The tears are real. The situation is not. What Affleck had going into that same scene is number 9. Number 9, Ben Affleck had a trash can. During the goodbye scene. There was a garbage can just off camera during the filming of the farewell scene. Affleck confirmed it in early 2026, talking about the moment that ends the movie, the one that makes audiences cry. They had a garbage can, he said, and he gestured at it, and it probably made the scene better. The film's most emotionally devastating scene was filmed with a trash can beside the leading man. Affleck concluded that the physical misery probably contributed to the authenticity of his performance, and now you will never be able to watch it the same way. The emotion you're feeling when it hits was partially manufactured by something a lot less cinematic than great acting. Willis looked at pictures of his daughters. Affleck had a trash can. The scene still works. Every time. Number 8. The bodyguard who became an Oscar nominee. Now, let's talk about Michael Clarke Duncan. Before Armageddon, Duncan had spent years in Los Angeles working as a bouncer and a bodyguard. His clients included Will Smith, Martin Lawrence, Jamie Foxx, LL Cool J, and the notorious B.I.G. On March 9, 1997, Biggie was killed in Los Angeles after a party following the Soul Train Music Awards. Duncan was supposed to be guarding him that night. He'd switch shifts, trading Biggie's detail to go guard Babyface instead. Duncan quit the bodyguard business after that. Within months, he was auditioning for Armageddon. He walked in, looked at the casting directors, and poured a bottle of water over his own head before saying a single word. He got the part. On set, he became close with Bruce Willis. When Frank Darabont was casting The Green Mile the following year, Willis personally called him and recommended Duncan for the role of John Coffey. Duncan received an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor for The Green Mile, one of the most celebrated performances of 1999, in a film that is still watched and still moves people. Before Armageddon, he was playing bouncers in the background of other people's movies. After it, he was an Oscar nominee. One shift swap, one night when he traded his assignment and someone else was there instead, separated the first chapter of his career from the second. Number 7. Aerosmith's biggest hit was written for Céline Dion. You think you know the story of I Don't Want to Miss a Thing. You don't. Diane Warren wrote it. Warren is one of the most successful songwriters in pop history. Because You Loved Me, Unbreak My Heart, If I Could Turn Back Time. When she wrote this song, she imagined it for Céline Dion, a piano ballad, lush strings, not Aerosmith. The inspiration was a Barbara Walters interview. Barbra Streisand was talking about her relationship with James Brolin, and she recalled a moment when they were nearly asleep, and Brolin said he didn't want to fall asleep because he'd miss her. Warren heard that, wrote down the title, then wrote the song, not for Aerosmith, not for any movie. When Bay called Warren needing a theme, she knew she had the right song, but it wasn't offered to Aerosmith first. U2 were asked. They passed. Aerosmith got it for one reason only. Steven Tyler's daughter had just been cast in the film. A piano ballad written for Céline Dion landed with a hard rock band because of family genetics and nothing else. That song became Aerosmith's only #1 single in their entire career. 8 years since their last top 10. 4 consecutive weeks at the top of the Billboard Hot 100. Barbra Streisand's future husband couldn't sleep. That's where your favorite Aerosmith song came from. And the reason it ended up with Aerosmith runs deeper than casting. Number 6 will change how you hear it. Number 6. Steven Tyler sang about the years he missed. Liv Tyler spent the first 11 years of her life not knowing who her father was. Steven Tyler was in the darkest period of his life when she was born in 1977. Her mother, Baby Buell, had been with musician Todd Rundgren, who agreed to be listed as Liv's father to protect her from Tyler's lifestyle. Liv grew up as Liv Rundgren. She had a poster of Aerosmith on her bedroom wall. At age 11, she looked at that poster and figured it out. She later told Biography, "My mom has a diary entry where I wrote, 'I think Steven is my father.'" She confronted her mother. It was confirmed. She changed her name and began building a relationship with a man she hadn't known was her biological father. By 1998, she was on screen playing a daughter watching her father sacrifice himself, standing at a monitor as he made a choice she couldn't stop. And Steven Tyler, her biological father, sang about not wanting to miss a single moment of someone's life in the background. The song wasn't written about them. The film wasn't written about them. But the emotional truth underneath all of it, the missed years, the fathers and daughters, the time that can't be recovered, wasn't fiction for anyone in that family. The goodbye scene that makes audiences cry is a daughter watching her fictional father choose to stay behind. The song playing over it is her biological father singing about not wanting to miss a single moment. And Steven Tyler spent the first decade of Liv's life as an absence, not a presence, for reasons that had nothing to do with either of them. Number 5, NASA helped make the least accurate space movie ever. NASA opened everything. They gave Bay the Neutral Buoyancy Lab, a 6.2 million gallon, 40-foot deep pool used to simulate weightlessness for astronaut training, previously inaccessible to civilian productions. Willis and Affleck were among the first actors ever allowed in the tank, alongside working astronauts. The production filmed inside an actual space shuttle being prepped for its next mission. They shot at Launch Complex 34, the historic pad where the Apollo 1 crew were lost in 1967. Cinematographer John Schwartzman told American Cinematographer the night launches happen roughly every 18 months. If we didn't get it right, there was no second chance. They also got access to a B-2 Spirit stealth bomber at Edwards Air Force Base. NASA then added a disclaimer at the end of the film's credits. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration's cooperation and assistance does not reflect an endorsement of the contents of the film. Next time you watch the film, it's right there. The agency that handed Bay their most restricted facilities quietly distancing themselves in the credits. Then, they incorporated Armageddon into their management training program, where new employees are asked to find as many scientific errors as possible. At last count, as many as 168. More than one for every minute of runtime. Neil deGrasse Tyson said on The Late Show in 2023 that until Moonfall came out in 2022, no film in history had violated more laws of physics per minute than this one. The most authentically equipped space film ever made is the least accurate one ever cataloged. Number 4. Roger Ebert hated it. Criterion called it. Cinema at its finest. Roger Ebert, 1 star. He named it the worst film of 1998, and he'd been considering Spice World for that honor, which tells you everything. He later placed Armageddon on his all-time most hated list. Gene Siskel gave it a thumbs up. Then the Criterion Collection, Kurosawa, Bergman, Cassavetes, released Armageddon as Spine Number 40, marketing it as important classic and contemporary cinema at its finest. The essay supporting the selection was written by Janine Bassinger, founding chair of the Wesleyan University Film Studies Department and one of the most respected film scholars in America, who just happened to have been Michael Bay's professor when he was an undergraduate. She called it a work of art by a cutting-edge artist who is a master of movement, light, color, and shape. She compared it to classic Warner Brothers pictures about working-class men by directors Raoul Walsh and William Wellman. She saw it as a film that made ordinary men noble. Bay's college professor wrote the essay that got his movie into the Criterion Collection. Ebert put it on his most hated list. His co-host liked it. The most prestigious home video label in the world called it important cinema. Number 3, Michael Bay apologized for Armageddon, then took it back. 15 years after Armageddon came out, Michael Bay publicly apologized for it. Then, within 48 hours, he took it back. Promoting Pain and Gain in 2013, he told the Miami Herald, "I will apologize for Armageddon because we had to do the whole movie in 16 weeks. That was not fair to the movie. I would redo the entire third act if I could, but the studio literally took the movie away from us. It was terrible." He also said his visual effects supervisor couldn't continue mid-production, leaving Bay to take over the effects himself. Then, I called James Cameron and asked, "What do you do when you're doing all the effects yourself?" The director of the highest-grossing film of 1998 had a VFX supervisor break down mid-production and called James Cameron for help. Bay posted on his website almost immediately that the reporter had twisted his words. He wasn't apologizing for anything. He'd only meant he wished he had more time to edit, specifically the third act, and that he was proud of the film overall. The apology that wasn't retracted before the ink was dry, for a film that had already earned $553 million. 2 months before the film's release, a rough cut was screened at the Cannes Film Festival marketplace. The Toronto Sun ran the headline, "Armageddon draws Snickers at Cannes." The room laughed. It was the highest-grossing film on the planet by August. Number 2. Bruce Willis hated the deal that made him huge. Willis hated making this film. He took $3 million instead of $20 million. He despised Bay's directing style and said so publicly. He has never worked with him again. The film grossed $553.7 million, a 4-to-1 return on the $140 million budget, and Disney's highest-grossing touchstone picture ever. Even the Razzie, worst actor across 3 1998 films, couldn't touch what was happening. Then Disney handed Willis the second film in the deal. M. Night Shyamalan had a ghost story, a $40 million budget, and no track record. Willis had no say in it. He showed up anyway. The Sixth Sense earned $672.8 million. 6 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture. One of the most discussed endings in the history of cinema. The third film was The Kid in 2000. By then, the debt was cleared many times over. Willis entered the arrangement furious and humiliated, working for a fraction of his rate across films he had no meaningful say in. He exited it as the most commercially successful actor on the planet because of a hockey film you've never seen and a debt he had no choice but to pay. The worst professional decision of his career turned out to be the most lucrative one. That's not a lesson. That's just what happened. Number 1, Armageddon was the last of its kind. Armageddon was the highest-grossing film of 1998 worldwide. No sequel, no franchise, no IP. Original story, original characters, oil drillers in space. It beat Saving Private Ryan globally. It beat Godzilla. It beat... There's something about Mary and a Bug's Life and every other film that year. Since 1998, not a single year has passed where the highest-grossing film globally was a completely original film that never spawned a franchise. Every single year. Mission, Impossible 2, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Pirates of the Caribbean, The Dark Knight, Avatar, The Avengers, Star Wars, The Force Awakens, Black Panther, Top Gun, Maverick. Every annual global winner has been a sequel, a prequel, a franchise entry, or an original that spawned one. Every year since 1998. Barbie briefly threatened the record in 2023. Then Barbie 2 was announced. The record stands. The mocked, razzied, fact-checked by NASA, commentary track roasted, Cannes audience laughed at film about oil drillers saving the planet is the last completely original movie to win the global year. Before the Phantom Menace kicked off the franchise era, before the MCU locked everything down. For one summer, Roughnecks with a drill and a detonator beat everyone, and nothing like it has happened since. And there you have it, 15 facts about Armageddon. Now you know why. The man crying on screen was looking at photos of his real daughters. The man next to him had a garbage can for company. The song was written about Barbra Streisand's fiancé and given to a rock band because of whose daughter was in the cast. The director apologized, took it back, and called James Cameron for help during production. The star was there because of a debt, not a decision. The screenwriter of Chinatown touched the dialogue, and NASA, who opened their most restricted facilities to make it happen, now screens the finished film as a training exercise in finding everything it got wrong. And it was the last completely original film to win the global box office year. Which fact blew your mind the most, and which ones did we miss? Let us know in the comments below, and subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive. Until next time, we don't want to miss a thing.